Have you ever felt a chill run down your spine for no reason? Sometimes those feelings are more than just your imagination playing tricks on you. Tonight, we're diving into three true, terrifyingly eerie encounters that will make you question the reality around you. These stories come from people just like you and me, people who experienced something so strange, it changed them forever. So, turn down the lights, get comfortable, and prepare to be unsettled. Our first story comes from a hiker named Mark, who was exploring a remote trail in the Appalachian Mountains. It was late afternoon, and the sun was beginning to dip below the treetops, casting long, dancing shadows across the path. Mark was an experienced hiker, but he started to feel an inexplicable sense of dread. The woods felt completely silent, no birds, no rustling leaves, just an oppressive quiet. Then he heard it. It led him to a small, moss-covered clearing he'd never seen before. In the center of the clearing stood an old, weathered rocking chair, gently rocking back and forth on its own. The humming was coming directly from the chair. As he stared, frozen in place, the rocking stopped abruptly. A cold wind whipped through the clearing, and a voice, raspy and ancient, whispered right in his ear, "Leave." He sprinted back to the trail and didn't stop running until he reached his car, the sound of the humming now replaced by the frantic beating of his own heart. He never went back to that trail again. Next. The house had a reputation for being haunted, but Chloe was a skeptic and brushed it off as local legend. One night, she was studying late in her room, the only one awake in the house. She heard a soft scratching sound coming from inside her closet. At first, she ignored it, thinking it was probably a mouse. But the scratching grew louder, more rhythmic, almost like someone was deliberately scraping their nails against the wood. Annoyed, she got up and flung the closet door open. Confused, she shut the door and went back to her desk. A minute later, the scratching started again, but this time it was accompanied by a child's giggle. A wave of ice-cold fear washed over Chloe. She slowly turned to face the closet, and through the crack under the door, she saw a small shadow dart back and forth. She spent the rest of the night huddled under her covers, listening to the scratching and giggling until the sun came up. The next day, she moved out. Our final story is perhaps the most chilling. It comes from a long-haul truck driver, David, who was driving through the vast empty desert of Nevada late one night. It was just him, his truck, and the endless stretch of dark highway. It was a woman in a simple white dress standing perfectly still, her back to the road. David slowed down, concerned. It was a dangerous place to be stranded. As he got closer, he rolled down his window to ask if she needed help. The woman slowly turned her head. David's blood ran cold. She had no face. He slammed on the gas pedal, his heart pounding against his ribs. He glanced in his rearview mirror, and to his horror, the faceless woman was now standing in the middle of the highway, watching him speed away. He drove for hours, too terrified to stop, until he reached the next town. He tried to tell the police, but they just thought he was exhausted in seeing things. But David knows what he saw, a silent, faceless figure on a lonely desert road, an image that haunts his every waking moment.
It started subtly, a whisper on the edge of hearing, so faint I'd dismiss it as the house settling or the wind playing tricks. I live alone in this old house, its floors creak, and the pipes groan. You get used to its unique symphony. Last Tuesday, I was in the kitchen making coffee. The house was completely silent, except for the gurgle of the coffee maker. And then, as clear as day, I heard a man's voice say my name. Sarah. It was deep, calm, and it came from the living room. I froze, my heart hammering against my ribs. Hello? I grabbed the heaviest frying pan I could find and crept into the living room. Nothing. The windows were locked. The front door was bolted. No one was there. I spent the rest of the day with every light on, jumping at every tiny noise. I tried to rationalize it. Lack of sleep. The voice wasn't a bang or a crash. It was a word. My name. A few nights later, I was trying to sleep. The house was dark. The world outside was quiet. I was just drifting off when I heard it again. This time, it was a woman's voice, a soft, almost sad whisper. It sounded like it came from right beside my bed. My eyes flew open. I didn't move. I barely breathed. I was paralyzed with a fear so absolute it felt like ice water in my veins. I laid there until the first hint of dawn crept through my blinds, listening to the frantic beat of my own heart. The next morning, I couldn't take it anymore. I started researching the history of my house. I spent hours at the local library, digging through old town records and newspaper archives. An article from 1958, a young couple, John and Mary, had lived here. They died in the house during a particularly harsh winter after their furnace failed. His name was John. Her name was Mary. The article mentioned how they were found huddled together, trying to stay warm. The woman's sad whisper, "I'm so cold." Was I hearing them? It sounds crazy, I know. My logical brain is screaming that there has to be a rational explanation. But the timing, the words they say, it all fits too perfectly. Every creak, every gust of wind, I tense up, waiting to hear them again. I've said, "You're safe now, and you're not cold anymore." I don't know if it helps. Sometimes I think the house feels a little less heavy after I say it. Other times, the silence that follows is even more unnerving. I don't know what to do. Do I move? I'm living in someone else's story, and I'm terrified of how it ends. This isn't just about strange noises anymore. If you've ever experienced something like this, something you can't explain, please let me know in the comments. I feel like I'm losing my mind, and honestly, I'm scared to be alone in my own home. Thanks for listening.